Hey guys, Mel the Train Shooter back in the studio and back with the Fabled Realms build. And for those of you who are just sort of coming on and don't know what's going on, I'm in the middle of an epic project to recreate the Fabled Realms from Foreground's The Legends of the Fabled Realms game, skirmish game, that's currently on Kickstarter. I'll throw a link up. Now, I'm building the map right now, and I've got to this stage, and this is where we're taking it from. Most of the outlines are done. We've marked down all the major riverways, all the major mountains, we've done the coastline, but we've reached a certain point, and, pardon me, apologies for this video coming out a bit later and not making the Thursday update. I had to take I've taken a bit of a command decision, okay? I've reached the stage on this build now where if I continue in the method I've been doing it, which is very much step by step, layer by layer, I will finish this map this week. Okay, well, I will finish constructing it this week. But I won't have created it. Yeah, I've reached a stage now where I'm basically laying down the actual land, and I'm going to be shaping the land and creating the mountains and that sort of stuff. And for me to really pull it off and pull off what I wanted to do, because this is a dream project for me, yeah, for me to do what I wanted to do, I can't do that by layers, yeah, because the whole map it's too large for me to envisage in my mind, or where the valleys are and how the hills roll across the entire piece, which means each section would be done sort of without real connection to the next or the future one. Whereas if I narrow it down, okay, and I pick sections and I work and I shape the land, I build the mountains, I put the nameplates in, and I do everything I need to in that section before moving on, okay, I'm really going to be able to sort of create the land I want to create. And so I'm changing from terrain builder to artist almost, yeah, because this is the stage where I need to create. So that's why this video is a little bit long. That's why it's coming out a little bit later this week, because it's just got to for me to be able to do this. And I don't know. I'm nervous. I haven't been nervous as part of this build, any part of it. It's all been a pleasure. And I've reached to the stage where, and I know I can create it, I know I can do it. Yeah, but I've got that trepidation, you know what I mean? Now, before I actually get stuck into that, I have one task I've got to do. Now, I've been talking about we've got a slight warpness on the board. We managed to fix it with clamps. Yeah, but we need to frame it. Now, I've got some baton to frame it with. I reached out to the terrainiacs, yeah, because to ask them the best way to drill it and screw it, whether to go up through the board, yeah, into the batten, or down through the batten into the board. And I already knew what the answer was going to be truthful, yeah, which is up through the batten, up through the board and into the batten. So, you know, the screw has the most grip. But I was really hoping some joiner was going to turn around and say it doesn't matter. The reason being is, if they'd said it doesn't matter, I could have left framing it until after I've sculpted it all, yeah? But because there were 68 comments and pretty much in fact, there wasn't a single one saying going down through the batten into the board. All 68 comments were up through the board into the batten. Now, to make that happen, yeah, I've got to turn the board over, which means I've got to do it before I start sculpting the land. Now, I'm a little bit annoyed about that because oh my god, what's the best way of saying this? A little bit annoyed about that because it's going to be make shaping things a little bit more restrictive, and I'd have preferred to frame it later on, you know, from just a feeling, you know. I prefer to add the frame later on, but I can't, yeah, that decision's been taken out of my hands. So my next job is to frame it, okay? So I managed to pick up some white maple, yeah, which is incredibly rare, yeah, and incredibly strong. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get cracked on with a bit of joinery. So I better go cut some wood and that. See you in a sec, guys. I'm 3/4 through battening it up, okay? I have done this one, far one, and that far one. Yeah, so I've just got this piece left to do. Now, this is white maple. You can't actually get this anymore. Yeah, it's a protected tree in the UK, and what that means is basically it's listed, yeah, because it's so old, and it is incredibly strong, ridiculously strong. It's the perfect thing, to be perfectly honest, to deal with my warping issue. Yeah, now I went to the woodwork merchants to get some basic hardwood, and the guy there turned out to be a bit of a terrainiac. Yeah, knows the channel, and he had a bit of this in the back of the shed. Now, he's had this for 20 years. Yeah, and he planed up these battens from an old piece for me. But white maple is a protected tree in the UK. It's called listed, which means you can't cut them down. If they fall down in a storm, they have to be either replanted, or if they can't be replanted, they have to go to a specialist reclamation yard, okay, where they're sort of turned into wood, okay, but that wood can only be used for doing repairs on listed buildings which require the original materials. So it's a real rarity, and to be perfectly honest, it's going to break my heart to paint over this. It really is going to break my heart to paint over this. But yeah, on the plus side, we've got a beautiful wood to do our battening with, and my warping issue, like I said, isn't going to be an issue anymore. So let me take you through how I'm doing this. Dead simple. Start off, I've cut my batten to size. Yeah, I've used a mitre block and a mitre saw to do that. Next job is, now I know it's cut to size, and I've probably got about, at most, 1 millimetre, okay, which is fine. I'm going to fill the gaps anyway. But first off, PVA, yeah, and I'm going to run PVA straight down this line, if it comes out, and then a couple of drops just on the sides. Yeah, just to help it bond. Next one is, I'm going to drop my batten down. Now, I've had a look, and there's a very, very slight warping to this. So I'm using it in such a way that the warping raises the top bit, the middle bit up. Because at the moment, it's the corners that are raising up. So if I put that down, this forcing it down will force those corners down. So basically, I'm using the little bit of sort of warping it's got to my advantage. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, I'm going to drop this into here. Yeah, and then once I've got it dropped in, it's time to put on some C-clamps. I've got these here. Yeah, and what we're going to do is dead simple. Yeah, make sure it's perfectly lined up at one side, and then clamp it. And I'm going to clamp there, I'm going to clamp there, and I'm going to clamp there. Yeah. So my clamps are all on. I've got my PVA squirting out the side, which shows it's a nice good joint. So I'll just rub that in quickly. Yeah, we're going to sand it anyway. Next job I've got to do is, I've got to flip this over, because I'm drilling and I'm screwing from the bottom up. Yeah, so grab it forward, and over it goes. Now we're getting ready to actually drill our holes. Now, what I don't want to do is just try and screw straight into the MDF and into the wood. It's going to be too hard, and unless I make a hole, what it's going to do is actually probably split the MDF and force it out. Yeah, so I need to make some holes. But before, are these a punch? I don't even know what these are called. What are these called? I'm not the best woodworker. In fact, I'm not a brilliant woodworker at all, but I'm not bad. Yeah, so, and all I'm doing is knocking in a couple of guide holes. I've already marked this out, and what I've done is 1/2 inch in, which should put my screws slap bang in the middle of the batten, and then every 4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to put some holes in. All our guide holes are in now, and it's time to drill. So I've got a drill, yeah. I've got a 4mm wood bit there, yeah, because my screws are 4mm screws. And all I'm going to do is come along and just drill out my holes. Now, very quickly, if I bring it up, yeah, you'll notice there's a little bit of masking tape just around there. That's my guide. That shows me how deep I want to, how deep I want to drill. And the reason for that is, if I look at my screws, that's the length of my screws. Yeah, so I know if I drill like that, it will be perfect. It won't be too deep and it won't be too shallow. So, over, and it is just screw. It is just a bit of drilling. That's all our basic screw holes in. And if I just clean them up, you can see them nice and clean. Next thing we need to do is we need to put countersink them. Now, on here, I have a countersinking bit. Okay? And what I'm going to do is, basically, this is designed, yeah, to make the recess that your screw heads disappear into. A bit like what I've done here. Tell you what, let me zoom in. So there we are, nice and close. So basically what I've got to do is just simply come along here, yeah, put it into the hole. And what I end up with is a recess, yeah, that will fit my screw head. So next job, all the way along, eh? So that's them done. Next job, all I've got to do is screw in the actual, what you call it, screw in the actual screws. So just going to run along, put the screws into the holes. Now the screws are in the holes, it's just a matter of very gently screwing them in. Yeah, and then just cracking on with the rest. Now they're all in. Just take off the clamps. Wipe down the PVA that's been squeezed out by all that screwing. Yeah, and it's done. Now if I quickly flip it over again, I'll have to zoom out for this. And there we go, there's our board. Yeah, looking good, isn't it? Now I've got a little bit of gap filling to do here. I'm going to use some filler for that. And I've also just got a little bit of sanding just to sort of clean up these edges here, which is nothing major. Yeah, I've got a sander. I'm just going to give that a quick sand and then we're going to be good to go, aren't we? Right, I'll crack on now. I'll come back in a second. So guys, fresh day, my woodworking is done and overall I'm really quite proud of it. Yeah, it's come out lovely. Okay, now as you can see it is still clamped down. I'm going to keep it clamped for a while. I just want the wood to set and just, you know, set flat. I'm being overcautious. Now my next job is I need to start sculpting the landscape, and this is the bit where the artist takes over, because I could do it step by step like I've done the rest of it, which is pretty much how I handle most of my terrain projects. But in this case, this is a case of me wanting to sculpt the landscapes, and that means tying in lots of different elements together so I can get a proper idea of how the whole thing sits, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's quite challenging to explain, but it's not something I can do in stages over such a large piece. So I'm going to have to get stuck in. So my battle plan is I'm going to start off with the smaller areas, yeah, with the least detail, and then build it up. The point being that if I start with the smaller areas and I get a feel for how I want to run the land, how I want to coat it, how I want to insert things like these little name tags and all this sort of stuff, yeah, then as I move on to the continent, the large area, the techniques will be down for me. Yeah, I'll know, you know, what I'm doing, and then I'll only have to tackle the next stage up. Whereas if I start on something large, I've got a lot of different elements I need to figure out. Yeah, so I'm taking baby steps for this one. Now with regards to the video, I think the best thing I can do, yeah, is pretty much do half of the board, yeah, to figure it out. To find my flow, should I say. Yeah, and once I've got half the board done, then I can come back, we can start the cameras rolling again, and I can show you all the techniques I'm using and I've figured out, and I can present you with the challenges that the second half of the board is going to present, the mountain ranges. So with that in mind, here's some photos of the first half, because I ain't filming, and I'll see you in a day or so. Wish me luck. It's been a productive day, guys. I've pretty much finished off all my smaller island masses, and I've been using those to sort of get my hands on the techniques. And if you come down to the board, you can see where I've started to add the nameplates, the small locations, how I've sort of beveled all these down in comparison to these sort of places, and made them a little bit more, not organic, but natural. Okay, rather than simple plain sheets, which they were. I've started to use rocks to establish the small mountain formations, and I've already started putting cast bits down. Now, obviously, yeah, you guys are interested in how I'm actually doing this. Okay, so now I'm feeling comfortable with this part. I've saved the last islands, the islands of Grimia, yeah, and we're going to tackle those on camera so I can take you through the techniques that I'm using, yeah, and then you're basically along for the ride, you know what I mean? So I'm going to readjust the cameras and yeah, I'll take you through doing the Islands of Grimia. Come on, let's crack on. So we've got our Islands of Grimia, yeah, that we're going to be working on here. Now the first thing I need to do is reduce some of this volume. It's a bit too high. The smaller islands are okay, but this top one's a bit too high. Now for that, I've got some really heavy duty green oxide, sandpaper, and it's just a matter of getting in there and with a bit of elbow grease sanding it down. So as you can see, it's all coming off. Those are sanded now. Time for a very quick hoover just to remove the dust. All cleaned up. Now it's time to actually insert our major location icon, yeah, which is essentially a little base with a slot in it. Yeah, I had Adam at Foreground cut these up for me just to make my life a little bit easier. And all I'm going to do is put it where I want it, and Grimhabba is just there. And all we got to do is press down, and we get that impression. Do you see it? Yeah. Now the next thing we need to do before we move on to those is with my thumb, I'm just going to come along. I'm going to press all the way around the outside on these bits. Essentially, it's expanded, it's polystyrene, which means we can use compression, yeah, to sort of shape it and make it a little bit more undulating. It's working well. Yeah, it makes it nice and low, so it's not going to stick too far out of our water. Yeah, and then onto this one. Yeah, around the edges first, so we get a nice sort of bevel to the coastline. Yeah, we don't want to push straight down on the edges. You want to sort of come in at 45 degrees. Yeah, because that way you get sort of a slope rather than a flat pancake of an island. Yeah, well that bit's a little bit loose. We'll fix that at the next stage. Yeah, so all these in. And then the actual island itself. And we want to just be careful here a second because I need to do a little bit of work. Now we have the nameplate. Yeah, Grimhabba. Yeah, and this is quite a major nameplate. Now there's nothing else on the island really. There's no mountains, so I can put it there. So once again, line it up. Make sure you're happy there. It's pretty straight enough. Yeah, press down to get an impression. It's going to kill my thumbs, this job is. Yeah, and then if we pull it off, we've got our little impression there. So we've got our major location and our little impression. So let's put some PVA on here. Yeah. Drop that into there. Just like that. Just like that. And then drop that onto there. Into that recess. Make sure it's all straight. It's got to be straight, hasn't it? There we go. Now I'm not too worried about how far these are sticking up out of the piece. Yeah, the reason being is we've still got to put a texture over all of these, which is scheduled for Friday. And so there's plenty of time to blend these in and fill any gaps that might be sort of, you know, from where it's overhanging and how we've undulated the terrain. Now the last thing that we need to do is I need to add some islands. Now I've been using small rocks for these because it's a lot easier than using polystyrene. So, very quickly just to show you what I'm doing. So, we have, it's quite interesting, I'm sort of working upside down on the map. And it ain't the most ideal. So we've got a little island there. So all I'm going to do is come in with a bit of PVA. Yeah, put a blob there. And then just get a tiny little rock. Yeah, something that I know is going to stick just enough out of our water. Yeah, to be an island. Yeah, and we're just going to push that down. And it does seem a little bit excessive for the PVA, but it's going to dry and we'll all be sorted. Now that sounds like the wife, so I've got more islands to put here and a phone to answer. I'll grab you shortly, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, family logistics. So that's it. That's all my little rocks glued in. As you can see, all my islands. Yeah, the only thing that we haven't done is we haven't done the mountains, but I want to save that for the next update when I can show you the whole process, yeah, not just the little gluey rocks on for the small little mountains. So you're gonna have to wait for tomorrow for that one. In the meantime, that's all my islands done. I've got to start sort of shaping the main ground now, so I better get cracked on, haven't I? See you shortly, guys. Start of a fresh day, or it was supposed to be a start of a fresh day, but it isn't. It's actually about 5:30. Yeah, there's been there was a bit of an explosion on site. Yeah, with the sort of the electricity supply blew up after a surge at Stoke Station last night, and it has taken, well then it's not even repaired yet, it's taken until about 5 o'clock to get a generator on site so we can have power. Now, I have no natural light in my studio, so it's been complete darkness. So I have been milling about and waiting for the power to come on for about 4 hours now, and I am annoyed. Okay, today was supposed to be a real big session, a proper 12-14 hour session to break the back on the board, and 2/3 of that is gone. Yeah, wasted already. So I'm annoyed about that. I am really annoyed about that, because I don't know if I'm going to have it completed ready for this video on Saturday. I wanted it to be, but I don't know if it will. But there's bugger all I can do about that. I've just got to get stuck in. Now, moving forward, there's a live show that's going to be starting in about 2 hours. I'm not really productive on live shows, so I'm not going to say it's dead time, but I'm going to get nowhere near what I wanted to get done on that show. So I'm annoyed about that. And, in hindsight, I was looking at the photos last night, and if we come down to the board, I was been looking specifically at all our markers, and I realised they're too raised. I don't like them. The ones on the seas are fine, yeah, but the actual earth, the land markers, they're too raised up, so they need recessing. And so I was looking at, there's 60 markers on the board already that need recessing, and a lot more to go on. Okay, so that's probably added at least another half a day into the job, yeah, of correcting these, and then the extra time with installing those. But it needs doing because it isn't right. And even though I'm annoyed, even though I've been put behind schedule and it's not my fault, even though I've got extra work to do to correct what I didn't realise was that bad last night, yeah, well, when I was working on it I should have stepped away and taken, you know, moment of perspective. Don't really matter, still loving the build. So this is the plan. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to recess these. I'm going to get cracked on with recessing, and once I've figured it out and I've got something to show you, I'll get the cameras rolling again. Yeah, and I'll be able to show you what I'm doing, you know what I mean, and how I'm fixing these problems. So, I'll see you after the skip, and I'll get cracked on. Right guys, it's going well, and I've figured out how I'm doing it. Basically, I've got my hot wire engraver, yeah, and I'm ripping these bits off, and I'm glad that they're stuck to foam and not what you want at the MDF. So take that bit off, and take that bit off, and I'm left with the impressions that I'd put in. It's just a simple matter of coming in with the engraver, yeah, and then making a hole for it. And we're going to fit it in, so do this one as well. Yeah, so that's our holes done, and then it's just a matter of throwing some PVA in there. And then replacing these back in. And I think overall the results are much, much better with them embedded in. I mean, there's some places I haven't been able to get them completely embedded in because of the camber of the land, but just even slightly recessed is a much bigger improvement. I have a feeling I've done that one too small very quickly. Make it a bit bigger. Shouldn't really be doing this with PVA. Look at that. That's not good. Don't do that. Right, and then drop that in there. There we go. And then any gaps around the edge, well, we've got to texture this up, and I'm thinking either filler or Artex. So what we'll do is we'll fill those little holes in, yeah, when we get to that stage. But that's essentially how I'm doing them, guys. Yeah, much better. Right, I better get cracked on. This is a bit of a different angle, isn't it? First off, I've reached sort of part of this video where I've already gone way past the Thursday deadline for getting the update up. Yeah, we did have a live show. That went really well. I was in on the Friday. We've had heat waves, we've had power cuts. I measured the temperature in the studio during the heat wave and it was 39 degrees in here. Now I know there's going to be loads of you who live in hot countries that are saying that's nothing, Mel. Yeah, but for a Brit in the studio, yeah, who boarded up his window, it was hot. Then we had a power cut that pretty much took out an entire day. Then we had a couple of little family emergencies. Nothing dramatic, but the sort of stuff that takes you away from work and you know what I mean. And also I made a decision that I didn't want to bring out another update video until I'd completed the construction of the board. Okay, what I didn't want to do is, look, we've done this little bit of it in this video and then we're going to do this little bit of exactly the same stuff in this video. I wanted to bunch it all together, which is why we've had the bit of a break, so apologies for that, but I wanted to bring it to you. Yeah. Now, with regards to the board, I'll take you through the board at the moment, but it is beautiful. Even though life has thrown at me absolutely everything it possibly, well, not everything it possibly could, but it's having a damn good go. You know, sort of making this difficult for me. It hasn't fazed me in the slightest. I'm still loving the build. I'm loving what I'm doing. I keep looking at it. There's little bits that it's like, oh, I'll touch that up and that bit, but I'm really happy with it. It's sort of taken a change. The moment I started to really shape it and do the extra work and start getting my thumbs in, when I started adding the rivers and stuff like that and the locations, the landscape came alive, and I think it went from a terrain project to an art project. I know that sounds a bit weird, and I know we do terrain, and I don't really consider myself a proper artist. Yeah, but this is easily the closest I've ever done to art. Especially with the passion that's going into it. You know, I'm literally sculpting the landscape with my thumbs. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I can't feel this thumb. Seriously, it's numb from down there. I haven't felt it in days. Hopefully the feeling will return. It normally does after these sort of projects. But that's why we've got to the stage where, you know, that's why this update has been so long and I've been quiet on the channel, guys. I could have put out some filler content, you know, done a couple of little tutorials. But I've been so engrossed in this that I haven't wanted to distract myself making content for the sake of making content. Yeah, like I said, this is a dream project for me. I'm already well over on time. I am a little bit behind schedule with regards to where the timescale I'd like to have delivered it on. But I'm still well within schedule, within the final possible chance to deliver it. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I'll be a little bit late on my own deadline, but I'll still be early on the final deadline, so I'm not overly worried. I've been procrastinating a lot. I've done a lot on this board and I've redone a lot on this board. Tell you what, let's have a look at the board, eh? So here she is. It's a bit different, isn't it? It's a hell of a lot different. I have essentially done absolutely everything I need to do on this board other than put the mountains in place. Now, I've got a couple of mountain ranges I need to deal with. I need to deal with these large mountain ranges up here, which is what I'm in the studio today to do, and I've got to just add some down onto the Akurian tribes. I've been thinking about the mountain range. Before we go on to the mountain ranges, let me take you through the actual board. So we've done all of the Trogsea fells, all the fell lands in the east. Yeah, inserting the name tags has worked really well. They're not all perfect, but they're a hell of a lot better than they were. Okay, I did actually come along and discover there's a couple of name tags foreground haven't actually sent me, and so Adam's very quickly redoing them for me and shipping them up. Yeah, the moral of the story is, yeah, never assume that the map's creators know all the locations on the map. Double check what they send you when you get them, rather than when you're actually inserting them. For now. Right, see, I'm still playing. I keep seeing little bits. Yeah, so I've done all of this, inserted all the names. The other thing that I've done, I've been very conscious about is the river valleys, like the Alavantum River, the Langan River, yeah, which are the two main rivers. I'm not sure what that river's called actually. Has it got a name? It is not named. A river of no names. But what I've been doing is I've actually been shaping the foam so that they naturally follow a downward slope into the sea. Yeah, rather than them actually going over a rise, I've had to re-engrave them. I've also been shaping the actual land, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with my thumbs, a hell of a lot. Yeah, there is literally blood, sweat, and by the time it's finished, probably tears in this board, but it's well worth it. The other thing that I've done is, obviously once the locations were in, I started to add the roads. Now these are only lightly engraved. I'm expecting when I do the coating, yeah, that the engraving will pretty much disappear, and I'm hoping it will, and leave me with just a faint outline of where I need to paint in the roads. Now obviously we've got the roads that go around Preorder and going up to this sort of area in the Tudor Forest and the Grassy Fells area, and then over here you've got more roads over in the Tudenberg area. Yeah, it seems to be like a lot going on over in the east, yeah, and not much going on over here, so to speak. There's places, but you know what I mean, it seems far more developed over in the east. So the roads went in. Another thing that I did is, you know, I've been adding all the gravel and all that sort of stuff. That's worked. Yeah. I've also, used my hot wire, engraver, and I've gone round to all this little waterways. And what I've done is, not waterways, the sort of inland seas. Yeah, the tiny ones. And I've just added all of those in, engraved them out, added those in, yeah. Well, so we'll reduce the depth of them when I actually do the coating, and then obviously I've got to add the resin and that sort of stuff. But above all, it's looking really well, yeah. Now, like I say, my next challenge is to tackle the massive mountain ranges, and there's been a lot of debate over this, about how I should do it. I've been playing around with rock casts, and I've actually been thinking that even though the rock casts are good, I need to revert to my old style, yeah, and I need to do them with foam, because foam is what I know. So that's my next job, is to get the hot wire tools out. I've got a sheet of green high density foam, which is the highest density I can get my hands on, which is beautiful stuff to work with, and I'm going to crack on and make some mountains out of that. So that's the next job. What I'm going to try and do is tackle the Akurian tribes here. Okay, the reason being is it's a small mountainous area. Yeah, the foam bits, and then we've basically got essentially a bit of gravel that I need to work with for the other areas. So it's a quick win. Yeah, now if I can get a quick win here and sort of proof of concept it, then I feel a lot better about moving into the larger areas. Let's just put it that way. So with that in mind, it's cracking on time. See you in a sec, guys. So I'm working on the next batch of mountains for our board. Now, take it very quickly through. Yeah, this is extruded polystyrene, and if I bring it up, yeah, or specifically that side, yeah, you can see it's incredibly dense. Yeah, which makes it brilliant for this sort of work. Now, what I've done is, using my scroll table, I've essentially cut out Toblerones, triangular prisms. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these into individual bits like this. So basically come in, yeah, and get rough cuts. I'm not too worried about the shape, getting it like a perfect prism. Yeah, they can be odd size, they're just getting the rough shape. And I know mountains are not all triangular, pyramid shaped, yeah, but these are the core substructures, if you know what I mean. Are they substructures? Well, the bottom's a substructure and the top's a model. Hey ho. No rhyme or reason to this terrain malarkey, I'll tell you. So, been cutting them out like that, and we end up with, let's pick one. We end up with our little triangles. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in for this bit. So, got my little triangle, and it's time to start shaping it. Now, straight off I know it's about 1 inch tall because that's the width of the foam, so we'll take that down a bit. Take a bit off there. Going to come round, take the edges off a bit. Yeah, and all I'm doing is taking the bottom corners off. Yeah, I'm not really reducing the base width, and straight away, if I bring that up, focus. Yeah, you can see where we're going. Next job, okay, is with my blade, and be very careful with this, you can use your nail, yeah, is I'm going to chip out a couple of little bits. Yeah, so a little cut in and a little flick to the side, just essentially breaking it up a bit. Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of the big lines, the sharp cuts, if you know what I mean. So if I bring it up, yeah, and once again, yeah, you see those chips? Next job is come in and start squidging it. Ooh, I don't know what that was. Now remember, these will have a coat, not a coat, a powder coating. They will be filler or Artex, or we might go for some Foam Factory, coat. But either way, we will put something on it, yeah, to sort of change the shape or change the surface texture. Yeah, so right now all I'm really doing is I'm just getting an interesting shape into it. Yeah? And if I bring it up, there is our miniature mountain. Now the top looks great, the bottom, it's a bit naff to be truthful, but that's okay. The reason why it's okay for the bottom to be naff is because I know I'm going to be blending this in with other rocks, and the bottom is essentially going to get disguised under our filler and other rocks. Yeah, so that's how I'm making my little mountains. My next job is all of them, and then we'll head over to the board and I'll show you how I'm dropping them in. Crack on time. And now over on the board, as you can see, yeah, we've glued down, oh, I thought we glued down, a bit more glue on that one I think. It's alright, these are going to get plenty more glue. Yeah, so we've been gluing down our pieces and our rock formations are rather nice. Okay, now remember, yeah, much like when I used the little bit of pebbles, I'm just waiting for these to sort of grip down before I go in. I'm going to dress the edges with the smaller rocks, and then we're going to do that filler coating once it's all dry. Yeah, that filler coating will be the thing that brings it all together and makes it look more like a mountain range rather than a lot of little rocks and a bit of polystyrene. So that's the battle plan. Like I say, I'm working on the main one, yeah, but we'll bring that together once I've got something proper to show you. In the meantime, I'm going to get stuck in and making lots of little mountains. I've been on a bit of a monster session, guys. Till stupid o'clock Saturday night, and then I've come back in Monday morning and just done a little bit more tweaking. Now, as you can see, we've got mountains. You can see my green foam pieces that I've glued down. Yeah, and then we went in with the substructure of all our little grits, and we've come in with other sort of larger little rocks and just placed them in between to get that sort of mountain range feel. Now, this is just a substructure. I've still got to go over this with filler to fill the gaps and give it a mountain range feel, he says. Now, as well as that, I did carve Mount Fergan, yeah? And then I looked at it on the map and it was just ridiculously big and it was the wrong shape and I didn't like it. So I recarved one and mounted it in and then sort of dressed around the edge with rocks that were going to blend in. So that's worked really well. And overall, mountain-wise, it's good. Now, I'm a little bit concerned just at the minute whether this PVA will dry in time for me to get the filler on it. I think it will. I'm here for another 6 hours, so I can't see a problem with that too much, to be perfectly honest. So fingers crossed we'll get that done. Now, moving on, whilst we get that done, yeah, we have, something else to do, which is these. Do you see these name tags? With the name tags, there's a bit of a gap around them in some of the places where I did the engraving. Now, those need filling in before we get to the texture stage. I had debated whether I should fill them in with filler, yeah, as I do the texturing, but I'm a little concerned that if I use filler on them, okay, the filler could sag because of the depth or not cure in time, and which means they'll need refilling, otherwise I'll have little dips next to my name tags. And I really don't need that hassle, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, so my battle plan is I'm thinking probably milliput. I mean, there's only a few gaps, maybe 20, a few. There's like 80 locations on here, and I've done location markers and name tags for every single one, so 20 is a few. Yeah, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to mix up some milliput, fill in these. Yeah, let this PVA dry. I'm also going to use it to sort of raise some of these roads up a bit. Yeah, and so that the valleys in the mountain areas aren't as, what's the best way of describing it? Aren't as low as the flat just outside. I want to just this central little bit and a couple of little pieces and get in and sculpt a few little details. So that's, bloody hell, that's sticking up quite a while. Damn, gotta fix that as well. Right, so with that in mind, let's get cracked on, eh? And as always, yeah, what is a quick, maybe an hour job turned into a 3, possibly 4-hour job. It always does with me. I just keep wanting to put more into this project, and I've got to sort of, time's becoming an issue. I don't want to get, I'm already like a day and a half behind. I don't want to get any further behind, otherwise I'm going to have problems. Yeah, big problems. Yeah, so with that in mind, the milli putty is down. I've filled in all my gaps, I've blended my lines, I've put some mounting passes in. Yeah, ready for the filler stage, which is what we're going to do now. So, don't want to show you this yet because I need to figure it out and have a play with it. Yeah, not sure if I'm going to coat the whole board or just the features I need to coat, to be perfectly honest. And we're not going to know until we get into it. And so I need to get into it. So I'm going to go get my filler, I'm going to get cracked on, and in the meantime, doesn't it look pretty? Right, fingers crossed this is the last stage before we get painting. So I really want to get this done today so I can come in tomorrow and paint. So I'm going to keep my chat short for once and crack on. See you then, guys. That was another job and a half and an excellent jolly, but it is textured and I've managed to do it in the day that I meant to do it. I've still got to stipple those at the mountain ranges a little bit, but they're definitely getting there. Okay, I'll do a final stipple before I head home. Yeah, but it's all coated, I've sealed it, I've sealed all the names in. I'm hoping the name tags are going to survive the painting process, but if they don't, I'm going to get Adam, do me some thinner name tags. I'm just going to glue them over the top and not worry about it, you know what I mean? I think being too fiddly is going to cost me a lot of time, but we'll just have to see how we go. Now if we go down to the map, yeah, you can see how I've done my mountain ranges by simply applying filler to them, watering it down, then as it's curing, stippling it and filling the gaps in between all these rocks, creating mountains, which is exactly what I was after. Yeah, I'm really chuffed with how it's turned out. Really chuffed. There's still a little bit of work and a little bit of cleaning up to do on it, but I can do that. That's not a problem. Yeah, I need to clean that out though. That's way too shallow for a river. Right, stop picking, Bosicle. But, yeah, we are looking good. All the filler is down, which means tomorrow I paint. But for the painting, you will have to wait for the next update. Now, obviously, this is the construction phase done. It's time to move on to the next phase. So I'm going to wrap this episode up. Sorry about it being a little bit late. I just wanted to complete it, you know what I mean? Yeah, so thanks for sticking with me on that one. Whew, whew. Right, so logistics, obviously, yeah, like it if you like it, share it if you know anyone who wants to see this. Any questions, any comments down in the comments, and remember you can also join and follow along with the photo updates over on Beasts of War. There's a link down in the description. Remember that Fabled Realms foreground, we've got their Fabled Realms Kickstarter going at the minute. I think it's got a couple of days left. They've been unlocking stretch goals like crazy, so go check that out. Yeah, and it's well worth it. And then finally, guys, if you really do like these videos and me taking the time to film and take you along on this journey, yeah, then you can always support that effort. And you can support it via either Patreon, yeah, or by sending a donation down below to the PayPal address. Either way, it keeps the lights on, it keeps me going, and it gives me the time to edit these and film these and all this sort of stuff, rather than just building them. And that's what I really like, sharing the stuff with you. So, if you'd like more of it, you'd like to help me with like my dream to share my terrain passion with the community, yeah, Patreon or PayPal, guys. And in the meantime, I'm going to love you and leave you because I've got to come in tomorrow and start base coating. So, all the best, yeah? See you in the next update. Ta-ra!